So that's the way I would begin to approach that. And my point is you can approach it philosophically, conceptually, historically, and also empirically. And so, for instance, the factor structure of mysticism scales has been found to be identical now in 4 different cultures, and cultures as different as the United States and Iran.
Yes,
George?
Yeah, where would you like to see the entheogen studies go? What
I would like to
limitations?
see the continual funding from major universities. You know, John Hopkins is the one who did this, and it was an amazing achievement. It was actually got through because it was a study funded by a wonderful group of ex-hippies who made money in the dot-com revolution. So that's how it got funded. But it was amazing. It's only because Griffith, who's a foremost experimenter in drug research, and his actual specialty is caffeine, which is what he's known for, was able to get that to the IRB board of John Hopkins. Because if you think about it, the upside for John Hopkins is nothing. Who cares, you know? But the downside is immense, right? One subject. And the IRB board had the greatest problem is that the selection of subjects for the experiment were fundamentally, not fundamentalists, but fundamentally believing Christians who were naive, never had used entheogens, and then were volunteering for a experiment where they would be given entheogens, right? Which then when they leave, and if they love them, they're all leaving. So it's an amazing achievement. So I would like to see that kind of research funded, but John Hopkins and none of the drug companies will fund it. So we need the last remaining dying hippies.
Do you ever integrate the brain research, like the research that's being done at McGill, into your mystical?
Sure.
So the right brain, left brain kind of.
Well, and in Bernie's text, Bernie, people who don't know it, he's spending his next 3 lives in other careers. So he's now taking 1 million courses in biology, so that the biological basic data stuff, neuropsychology stuff in the textbook is highly advanced, and that research from all over and all of the imaging stuff is incorporated and integrated and reviewed in the textbook. That Bernie has been the visionary.
One last question, Bernard.
I come from a theological background, and looking at the theology of mysticism, James is usually seen a little bit differently as kind of the beginning of kind of a divergence between what's theology of mysticism and psychology of mysticism, which gradually more and more it's hard to talk between the two. What are some ways that you would think that the two can communicate?
Yeah, thank you. That's an excellent question. First place, I understand that divergency, but understand why James had to go there. Notice the subtitle of the varieties is studying human nature. And he said, if I start off talking about religion using theological constructs, it's already over. Because, you know, you're going to tag me as a Christian, you're going to tag me as a Buddhist, you're going to tag me. So he said, for the purposes of these lectures, and people forget that, he says, let's bracket out the interpretation. Because much of that is not linked to anything that the psychologists can find is empirically based. So let's look at what is empirically based and then see what interpretations can follow from that. And even though that was his psychological stance, don't forget that he said all his life, while religion is often the most absurd thing about people, right? It's also the single most valuable thing about people. So he did not want to dismiss, as many people think, theology and overbelief. But he didn't want to engage that unless he could link it to an empirical basis.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bernie has always been and is my hero.